Hi, love bugs. Welcome to another episode of Girls Night. Today's guest is Trevor Hanson. Trevor is an internationally recognized coach dedicated to helping individuals and couples create secure, thriving relationships. After overcoming his own anxious attachment, breaking his jaw, ending a toxic relationship, and leaving a corporate career at Tesla, he found his purpose in helping others find their secure self. With a master's degree in marriage and family therapy and advanced training from some of the world's top attachment experts, Trevor has helped thousands of clients around the globe. He's been featured by the Gottman Institute and has spoken to audiences of over 10,000 people. As the founder of The Art of Healing, he teaches his signature Secure Self method to help people step into emotional confidence and build the kinds of relationships that last. So, everybody, help me in welcoming Trevor to the show. Hi, everyone. Life can get a little crazy, so let's talk about it. If you're ready to dive deeper, talk about what really matters, and feel a little more empowered, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Carly Dockstader. I'm a life coach, baker, dog mom of two, and you're always there for you gal pal. And I'm so excited to have you join me. So grab your fuzzy socks, put on your comfy pants, and let's have girls' night. Hi, Trevor.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Okay, so Trevor, you previously in a previous life were a marriage and family therapist, and now obviously you're a secure attachment coach. So I feel like that's a pretty interesting change. So can you tell us a little bit about what inspired that change and how that's changed the way that you help people heal?
I'm still a marriage and family therapist. I'm a licensed therapist and I can do all of that work. But what I found is that as I was doing work as a therapist, I kind of noticed that there were some gaps in how we were approaching things that were what we might consider like a non-clinical issue or something that didn't require like a diagnosis or a very specific treatment plan. Like if somebody's got a diagnosis around something and they need to work on it, then you need a very clinical approach. And that's really important. But a lot of individuals who are just like, hey, I just want to feel more confident in myself. I want to feel more secure. I want to have more success in my dating or in my marriage life. I was hearing kind of the same complaints from a lot of people who had been going to therapy, which is I go and I just feel like I'm talking about my week, but I don't really feel like I'm getting anywhere. There doesn't seem to be like a direction, a plan, actionable steps, something really clear and like directive for me to do, which is much more aligned with like the coaching lens of things. Coaching lens is much more, it's less about just like wandering and processing and it's definitely not about diagnosing and treating. Coaching is about going, okay, what's the goal you want in the future? And like, how do we really get there with clear, actionable steps and structure? So I just realized that people needed something a little bit different, and also the community aspect was important for me. I wanted to provide coaching, but not only in a silo of just one-on-one sessions where a person starts to feel like they become kind of dependent on the coach or therapist or whoever's conducting, but where they feel like they're tapped into an entire community of other people. And so that's why in the Secure Self Club, our program, we bring people in, we do weekly group calls, we do all sorts of stuff that gives people the opportunity to connect with others around the same like tools and frameworks and processes, all focused on becoming that more securely attached person. So that's are some of the reasons that we made that shift. But really, I still, the guiding principles and the lens in which I see things through is still comes from my work as a marriage and family therapist.
Okay, amazing. I think it's great that you have the blend of those two because I agree that sometimes coaching gives you a little bit more freedom, I would say, to help address those different problems in different ways and to really just focus on the future, like you're saying, and it's more about growth. But tell me a little bit more about how you landed on being a secure attachment coach out of everything that you could have chosen from.
Oh yeah. So I mean, it's the way I even became a therapist is connected to this. I was a anxiously attached person for most of my life. I didn't know that that's what's going on. I didn't have a name for it. But there came a point in life where I was in a relationship that was not healthy, like whatsoever. But my own fears, my own insecurities kept me there, right? Is like the fear or the belief that I'm not going to find anybody. not wanting it to end because it feels like abandonment. And abandonment's the thing I'm afraid of. Believing that I'm not good enough. And the reason, you know, I already kind of grew up with these fears of not being good enough and that somebody wasn't really going to choose me. But then it got worse because when you're anxiously attached, what happens is your fears become reality because you make them into a reality. I'll give you a classic example. Let's say you're afraid that everyone's going to leave you and no one's going to love you. And so when you're not getting that text back from somebody who you're waiting for them to text you, you're getting really anxious, you're overthinking, and in your overthinking, maybe you decide to double text them. It's some big apology. Oh, I shouldn't have said what I said. That was stupid. Or, like kind of just over functioning. And to the other person, it feels kind of overwhelming. They're like, whoa, like this doesn't feel very confident, doesn't feel comfortable, doesn't feel natural, like things are flowing. And so they back off, they get out of the relationship. And then you're left going, well, see, yeah, everyone doesn't love me, everyone doesn't care, they always leave. But it's not that at all. It's just that that behavior, the input into the relationship, created a negative output that looked like abandonment. And so I think I experienced a lot of that to where things weren't working out, the relationships weren't happening. And so when I got into one that I finally felt like, okay, this is it, I was going to hold on for dear life no matter how bad it was. I logically knew I shouldn't stay, but I stayed. And it got to the point where if you're in a relationship like that, the chaos will force you out. Meaning you can decide to leave or the chaos will decide it for you. And the chaos ended in a really horrible breakup. At the same time, I was working for Tesla, a corporate career, got laid off from that job, broke my jaw at the same time. So it's like everything in the whole world just exploded. And I was like, I should probably go back to therapy. I should go to therapy. I don't know what it is. I think it's cool, maybe. I don't know. I've never even really heard anyone going, but I went, got a lot of help, realized what attachment theory was, got a master's in marriage and family therapy, became a therapist. And then it got to a point in my career where I was like, you know what? I just should help the people that I once was. That's who I'm probably most equipped to help. And so
Mhm.
so let's do that. So that's in a nutshell how we got here.
I think that's a great story. And you said something really important there that not just with anxious attachment, but I think with both of the different extreme attachment and styles.
Yeah.
So avoidant attachment, anxious attachment, and then there's like disorganized attachment, which is kind of a mix of both. I think with
Yeah.
all of those, they're kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because
Yes.
you have these certain thoughts, which your thoughts control the way that you show up. It controls your behaviors, and those behaviors, while to you it seems like they're like these rescue behaviors almost, it's actually something that's sabotaging the relationship.
Yep.
So it's actually doing the opposite effect of what you want it to do. And so to your point, something that's really important when you're in the midst of this, and I'm speaking as someone who at one point in their life was anxiously attached to, it's really important to start recognizing those behaviors as they're happening, start recognizing those thoughts as they're happening so you can make a different choice going forward.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great way of saying it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Um, and this is so hopeful for the person who's like, I can't get my relationships to work. I keep getting stuck. Like, it must just be me. It's like, well, hold on, we can pause that narrative, right? There's a difference between this belief that says, oh, I'm just unlovable versus, oh, my behavior is unsustainable. There's a
Hmm.
difference, right? You at your core, who you are, the living, breathing human being in front of me, you're always lovable.
Hmm.
The way you protect yourself, seek love, protect relationships isn't always sustainable for a healthy relationship to develop.
Right.
That makes a whole lot of sense. And so all we got to do is uh, change what's not sustainable into that which is, so that people can have access to the very lovable person that you are
Hmm.
underneath all of your behavior. It's like there's a very lovable person in there. I just can't get maybe you can't get through the people pleasing, Maybe your protective mechanisms, I people please to try to make everybody love me. But in so doing, you're never yourself. And because you're never yourself, nobody actually gets access to who you really are. And so the relationships lack depth. You're not compelling. It's just kind of like, you know, you're so vanilla or basic that it's hard to connect with you.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness. But if we remove the protective behavior of people pleasing, you're authentic, people get access to who you really are. And quite frankly, that's the most lovable version of you is who you truly are
Hmm.
as you strip away these protective behaviors. And so I like to see it that way. And it's cool because it gives this great intersection where there's accountability for change. Because yes, you've got to change, but that accountability doesn't come with shame. Usually
Hmm.
shame intersects with accountability when we don't really understand it. We tell ourselves, I'm the worst, I'm so bad, I'm crazy, I gotta change. It's like, no, 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 no. It's a compassionate view of, I feel the way I do for certain reasons. These are just strategies. I do need to take ownership and change them. But it doesn't mean because I need to change that I'm not enough as I am.
Right.
And it's hard to wrap your head around this if you've grown up with a shame lens your whole life. It's kind of tricky.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like that you brought up people pleasing too, because I think people pleasing is one of those things that on the surface, when someone's a people pleaser, you think that it's because they're trying to make everyone else around them happy, which to a certain extent it is. But when you look a little bit deeper under people pleasing, I think it's actually a pretty selfish behavior. It's pretty manipulative. It's not malignant. It's not like you're doing it maliciously, but it is manipulative in the fact that
Mm.
when you're people pleasing, you're trying to get a very specific reaction out of a person rather than letting the actual natural reaction happen.
Yep.
So when you're stuck in people pleasing, to your point, people aren't actually seeing the real you. You're just creating this facade of this person that you want people to see so that you're getting the specific reaction that you're hoping for. I hope that was easy enough to follow. I know that can be
Yeah.
kind of confusing, but
Yeah.
when you can look at it from that sense that people pleasing actually isn't this like selfless act, it's actually kind of a selfish act. I think that was something that really helped change it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say it's a deception with lipstick on. It looks really nice. It looks
Mhm.
super kind and everything else. And it's not to say like, oh, if you're a people pleaser, then you're wholesale a selfish, deceptive individual.
Oh,
No,
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 not
no,
at
no,
all.
no, right, right. And I'm not hearing that's what you're saying by any means. But to give clarity to those who are listening to this and going, oh man, that's me. It's like, yeah, you probably do it because there is a part of you that's loving and genuine and like wants to love people. True. But we also probably do know that there is this, the narrative behind people pleasing is, I need to keep you happy so I can keep you close,
Hmm.
right? It's removing the ability for you to choose whether you want to be close to me or not based on authenticity and who I really am.
Right.
So there's a big difference. And I tell you what, it's funny how much more attractive you become when you stop people pleasing. You're so dang attractive because you're just real.
I've said this before on the podcast, I believe, but boundaries are sexy and boundaries allow people to get to know the actual you in a way that's safe for both of you. And when you stand up for yourself, people like that. Like, we don't naturally like being around somebody that's just a doormat because something about it feels icky. It doesn't feel good. So, when you do stand up for yourself, when you do let people know who you are, when you do stand up for your opinions, to your point, that is a really attractive trait in someone.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Most
Yeah.
definitely. It's true. I love that. And you know, as we talk about this, there's this concept I call points of connection.
Hmm.
Points of connection are things about you that are uniquely you, that others see in themselves as well. Like, let's say that you just are crazy about some, I don't know, I'll use this example because I was sitting in an Indian restaurant that I love when I thought about this idea and called it points of connection. I was eating lunch, and so we'll just use that as an example. Let's say you love this place to eat just as much as I do, and you're crazy about it. If you're a people pleaser and we ask, hey, where do you want to go, for lunch or for dinner? And you're like, oh, anywhere is great, but secretly you would want to go to this Indian place. And I also would love that too. Then you have eliminated a potential point of connection for the two of us. I don't know that that's something that you are crazy in love about, right? And if I hate Indian food and you absolutely love it and you must eat it, then also that helps us to kind of clarify like, I mean, that it sounds trivial, right? A relationship probably wouldn't be hinging on Indian food, but if you extrapolate that over many points of connection, you
Hmm.
start to realize some compatibility things. You are never in that position where you're like, oh my gosh, this person is the best, this is amazing, by just being vanilla, right? You,
Right.
it's that moment where you both look in the bag of things that you love, and you both look up and you make eye contact. You go, "Holy crap, we love the same stuff. You are so much like me, and I love this about you." You
Hmm.
remove the possibility of that even happening when you people
Hmm.
please.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to me. And so you have to move past the fear and realize that the clarity on connection is going to come much more quickly if you just are yourself. You let
Hmm.
your opinions be known. Things like that are deeply important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think to that point, one, I love how you describe that. That's very easy to follow in how important those points of connection are. But I think that's kind of related to the fact that it I feel like in this type of situation, if you're constantly just giving in to what the other person wants or preemptively trying to choose what the other person wants, then that's the place that's really dangerous because that's where you start to lose yourself. And I guess
Yeah.
to expand on your example of the goodie bag, so you both have your goodie bags. If you're taking out pieces of yourself from your goodie bag and just replacing them
Mm.
with other pieces
Yeah.
to try to match the other person's bag,
Yeah.
that's why at the end of these really toxic relationships, so many people feel like, oh my God, I lost myself. Like that person took everything from me. But in
Yeah.
reality, it wasn't necessarily the other person taking it from you, it was you taking it from yourself. Hi, Love Bug. I've got a juicy little gift for you. And if you've been feeling off, stuck in your head, or like your vibe just is not vibing lately, then this is for you. I created a free guide called The Three Secrets to Creating a Magnetic Energy Shift right now. And it's exactly what you need to start shifting your energy instantly. These are the exact tools I use with my private coaching clients when they're ready to stop chasing and start attracting. We're talking powerful, we're talking practical, and yes, of course, we are talking a little bit woo, but in the best possible way. In the guide, you will learn how to clear energetic blocks, activate your most irresistible frequency, shift into receiving mode, and there's even a bonus secret on how to use your body language to instantly boost your confidence and presence. So, if you're ready to feel like the version of you who turns heads, magnetizes opportunities, and walks through the world like the main character, then this is your sign. Head to the show notes and click the link to download your free copy. It is quick, it is powerful, and it is going to leave you feeling like, damn, I really am that girl. All right, let's get back into the episode.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's that's where real ownership needs to come in. Like if you're in a relationship, this can happen too. We're talking the examples we're giving are more like early relationship, dating, that kind of thing. But let's say a relationship is established and you default to people pleasing in your relationship, never voicing what you need, being a bit boundaryless, always going along with whatever the other person says, and everything looks hunky dory. They're like, this is great. We always agree. They don't even know that it's happening. But you, as you're editing yourself, what can happen is a very subtle process, but over time, you become resentful because you're not getting what you need in the relationship
Mm-hmm.
simply because nobody knows what you need in the relationship. You hardly even know because you don't take enough time to slow down and ask yourself, what do I need? And so you are the first one that abandons you. And then you facilitate passive abandonment from your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And passive abandonment is the worst kind because it's definitely not going to be fixed. Nobody is even aware of it. It just happens. And there's no way of fixing it because nobody even knows the solution for doing the opposite, which is filling your needs. And then you become resentful and it's your partner's fault. Oh, they never show up for me. They always do this, and that's the person who's unaware of the pattern, is they become the victim.
Mm-hmm.
And then they become the one who's critical. And if they become critical, then their partner starts to withdraw and shut down. And then, they start labeling their withdrawn partner as just avoidant. Yeah, all I do is just date avoidant people, and they're always avoidant, and they always suck, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how it always is. And it's like, wait, hold on, but you're creating this actually. Like
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not saying if you date an avoidant that you're always the one like at fault or you created it, but how cool would it be if you start realizing, hey, not everybody that I dated is avoidant. I'm not just in this horrible trap where I'm like dating brick walls over and over again. Maybe I'm kind of influencing that. That's hopeful because you
Yeah.
can change the pattern.
Yeah, Bill, because to that point, you can't control what other people do. And sure, maybe you'll run into some avoidant people every once in a while, but Like when you change your behaviors, when you change your patterns, when you change the way that you show up in relationships, then that's going to be the biggest lever for finding a healthy relationship because all of a sudden you're showing up in a healthier way. So that's going to also attract somebody that's going to show up in a healthy way also.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So can we back up for a second for everybody listening? What is, and this might be a little bit rudimentary, but what kind of lies underneath anxious attachment? And I feel
Yeah.
like when you get into this work, people always bring it back to your childhood, which from my experience and from a lot of people that I've talked to, they maybe developed it a little bit later in life. So is it just rooted in childhood experiences, or can it also develop on later with different relationships you experience as an adult?
Yeah, so the key word is experiences. So when we experience something through life, and I will say more specifically, emotional experiences, a logical experience doesn't really change the way you show up in your programming very much. We know this because we see some of the most, I mean, some of the most dysfunctional people I know in my life are also therapists who have all of the right answers logically, but they haven't had an emotional change or transformation. And so emotional experiences program the emotional parts of our brain, right? And so, if you have emotional experiences through childhood, yes, that's one example where maybe there was a lack of consistency from mom and dad. There was a lack of even just something simple like eye contact. They weren't comfortable when you were sharing your emotions. They were always kind of defaulting to the, yeah, that's so sad, but like buck up, you got this, where you didn't really have that safe landing zone. It could be very, very subtle or extreme, from abuse to, you know, simple things. I mean, for me, I was told that I was always the golden child. If the car broke down on a road trip, my brothers are like, Trevor better pray because God's gonna listen to his prayers more than ours, kind of a thing. Like, and I think I got put on this pedestal of like this golden child thing, and then it followed some anxiety that like, oh, I need to be that, and that's where I gain my worth and my value. And so I started to believe that love was contingent on being perfect. Did anybody ever treat me that way? No, my family is very consistent, very amazing. It's so subtle, right? It's almost a positive thing created it. But yeah, it can happen, and that's, I will say, most likely there's some sort of tie to childhood, even if it's just like a very subtle thread. Um, Usually there is some sort of tie there. Then later experiences in life can definitely reinforce or create the anxious attachment in you. Like if you went through, I mean, for example, like betrayal, like if you have somebody who flat out like infidelity or betrayal, those are going to have the same kind of feelings and
Mhm.
negative beliefs on the tail end of that. Beliefs like I'm not good enough, people are going to leave me, I can't trust others to be there for me. Like that kind of stuff's going to come out of something like a betrayal, for
Mhm.
example. Um, and that's just an example. It doesn't have to be quite that extreme. But yeah, I think the key here is, and this is also the key to healing, is understanding a shift, either positively or negatively in an attachment style, comes through emotional experiences.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think to that point, when you start filling up your tank with more positive experiences in whatever department it is, whether it's with your friendships, your relationships, romantically, then that's going to start outweighing the negative experiences. And then that's the evidence that your brain is going to start looking for because there's this thing in our bodies and our brains, it's called the reticular activating system. And it's that system where, let's say you're buying a car and all of a sudden, and you get a baby blue Bronco. Let's go with that.
Nice.
That's my favorite car, the like
Okay.
new baby blue Broncos. Um, but then all of a sudden, you're seeing all these people on the road with baby blue Broncos and you didn't see them
Yeah.
before. It's because now your brain is actually looking for that because now it's information that's actually pertinent to your brain.
Yeah.
Where before it was just filtering it out because your brain doesn't you don't consciously process nearly as much as your subconscious does. So when you start having more of those positive experiences, then your brain is actually going to start believing that more and going to start looking for evidence of that more. So in a romantic relationship, once you start having those positive experiences of, oh, I can rely on this person. Oh, people don't abandon me. Oh, people do love me. Then your brain will actually look for evidence of that rather than to the contrary.
Yes. Yes. Totally. Totally. I love that. That's a great example.
Thank you. So, what are some things for everybody that's listening that is anxiously attached now, or maybe they are moving towards a healthier place, but they still struggle with it a little bit? What are some
Mhm.
steps that they can take right now, today, after listening to this episode, to start coming to a more secure place themselves?
Yeah. So I would say one thing that it's almost hard to give an answer to this, right? Because there's so many things that you can do, but what can you start with? And it depends on how much time we have, we can get into both. But there's a couple things we've already touched on is looking at your method. So whenever I say somebody has a problem, they got two problems. Problem number one is like the anxious attachment. That's a problem that I want to solve. I want to become secure. And the second problem is usually their method. How am I going about becoming secure? And usually there's holes in the method or in the process. And so I want to go to process level for a second because if we get in the weeds, there's a million things I could teach you how to do, but the process can give you a general guidance on like, oh, this is how I need to adjust.
Okay.
So number one, if a person has an anxious attachment style, from what I've found, and if they want to become secure, most of those individuals who come through our doors say, I don't have any structure. And we kind of mentioned this earlier. I don't have a structure, a plan, or a framework for moving forward. They're either collecting sound bites on podcasts, social media, through books, consuming it like it's a meal, and then they're looking to the next thing, going, okay, what's next? But they don't know how to organize all of that information into clear steps and activities and processes that give them the emotional experiences for changing.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're going to therapy and they're just talking about their week every single week and they feel like they have a paid best friend and they're like, that doesn't have structure either. So I
Mm-hmm.
would say either creating yourself or finding a resource that actually gives you clear structure. In our world, in the Secure Self Club, which is kind of our offer, it's called the Secure Self Journey. It's got 5 stages with individual steps and actions underneath them. So number one is structure. Um, and the second one we were already kind of mentioning, which is finding ways of creating emotional experiences around the things that you're learning rather than just learning them, right? You can learn about the concept that, oh, I have this inner child within me that is trying to protect me from abandonment. And that's why I get so anxious when somebody's not texting me back. And I understand the concept versus man, I've done this like deep, like focused visualization where I'm meeting my inner child and I'm giving him or her love and compassion and soothing their fears and meeting their unmet emotional needs. And as I do it, I'm feeling so much love and compassion and I'm crying. And it's like I'm emotionally connected to the process. The emotional bit is the thing that you're probably missing
Mm-hmm.
in your work if you feel like you're not really making much progress. So those are two. There's two more, but I'll pause there. On structure and emotional experiences, I would say need to be part of somebody's method in
Mm-hmm.
order for them to make any progress.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially if you're coming from a place that feels very chaotic, that feels very uncertain. And I feel like that is kind of what anxious attachment feels like. Everything feels uncertain. To your example earlier, how you were saying even a text back, if it's a little bit delayed than normal, then that feels like the end of the world, right? So structure, I think, helps to bring a little bit of stability back into what feels like chaos. And then emotional experiences, it kind of relates to what we were just talking about, right? How your emotions create emotion. What did you say? You said it perfectly earlier.
So the emotional part of your brain is wired through emotional
Yes.
experiences.
Yes, thank you. But the emotional experiences are so important for that. And again, just creating positive emotional experiences for you to lean on. Something that comes to mind for me when you're working through the anxious attachment, and let's say you're in a relationship and you're wanting to improve yourself within that relationship, I think asking yourself a few questions and just slowing down when you're in the midst of that spiral is really, really helpful. So, in the example with the texting, when you slow down and you ask, okay, and you're telling yourself, okay, they don't love me anymore, like they must be doing something bad, or whatever story you tell yourself, if you slow down and say, hey, is that true? Or something, could something else be happening here? Could something
Mm,
else also be true? Could they just be in a meeting at work? Could they just be delayed? Could they be stuck in
mm.
traffic? Any of the above. And
Yeah,
for me, that was really helpful in taking out the emotional charge.
yeah, yeah. And the the example of what you're saying, another way of, I love that example of like challenging the meaning behind what you're thinking in the moment or the belief. Another great way of doing that is recognizing where the meaning is coming from and saying,
Mhm.
recognizing, oh, that's just a part of me. Let's go back to, I gave kind of very briefly this idea of an inner child, right? The inner child concept is I went through things when I was younger, and younger could mean a relationship 5 years ago. It could mean when you were 5 years old.
Mhm.
But it's, I went through experiences that made me feel unsafe and like I needed to protect myself. And so now there's like this part of me that was created that's kind of stuck emotionally, hasn't matured beyond that. It doesn't know that people generally are like to be trusted or that you're enough or that others aren't going to abandon you. It doesn't believe any of that. Even if a logical part of your brain does, it doesn't really believe it. And that's the part of you that gets activated. Let's go back to the not text back. They're not texting me back. Oh, it feels just like, when I couldn't get mom's attention. It feels like abandonment. It feels like nobody's going to be there for me. And so that little inner child part of you kind of takes the steering wheel, starts taking over, making decisions, double texting, overthinking, people pleasing, all the good stuff. And yet there is another part of you that is kind of in its wisdom, knowing, well, that's not really how this is. They could be busy. It knows all the logical reframes that you just gave us.
Mhm.
If you've been doing the emotional work, like building an active relationship with this inner child part of you, so for example, when you feel the fear, maybe you're closing your eyes, you're noticing in your body where you feel it, you're almost speaking to it. You're like, hey, little Trev, guess what, buddy? It's actually okay. Like, you don't have to be perfect in everything in order for her to like you. Like, she's probably just busy. Or, did you know that I care about you and that you're safe no matter what? Even if she doesn't, even if she is abandoning, like, I got you, right? And through those conversations, I'm seeing myself as a little kid. I'm connecting. Man, those are so emotionally powerful that by the time the trigger hits, A, the trigger is going to be a lot smaller because your inner
Mhm.
child's going to trust you to take care of yourself. And then B, you can go in and do the work right then and there. Hey, bud, I know what you're feeling right now. Like, you're not getting that text back, so you're worried that, she doesn't like you, right? And you almost can almost hear like the voice come back. He's like, yeah, I'm so afraid. That
Mhm.
makes sense. Like, I got you, just as you would talk to a little kid who was scared. Most people are pretty good at this if they try real hard.
Mhm.
Meaning if you're not emotionally dysregulated and annoyed with a child, most everybody can speak kindly and offer compassion and work through it with a kiddo. You don't even have to
Mhm.
have kids to be able to do this.
Right.
And so that's what we mean. Like, it becomes very tangible, and it's not like this brand new concept. When you get triggered, you're familiar with it. You're like, oh, that's just my little me, just freaking out a little bit. I'm gonna go help him.
And I love that work too, speaking to your inner child, because really it's those lingering emotions that are speaking up and looking for a platform to be heard. And when you
Yeah.
finally give them that platform to be heard, then the emotional charge dissipates, as you were saying.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that idea, giving them a platform to be heard. And I would say, kind of in addition to that, they're looking for a need to be met. And if you
Hmm.
can give them a platform to be heard and you can meet the need of that part of you,
Hmm.
and meeting the need might look like giving yourself some validation, some love, some respect, some kindness.
Hmm.
Whereas if you were to people please, for example, you go along with what they want,
Hmm.
you're actually abandoning that part of you even more. You're, reducing your own needs, minimizing your worth. It's kind of crazy how that works. And so the more you show up for yourself and meet the needs of the inner child, the more your inner child, and I guess all of you, will start to believe that you're worth showing up for. The more you believe that, the more you're going to show up authentically and set boundaries, and all the other good things that come from that. And then the relationships get better and you experience less abandonment, toxic patterns, rejection. This self-fulfilling prophecy goes in reverse too. We're playing
Hmm.
it out, and it's really, really exciting once you realize that.
Hmm. Yeah, I think to that point too, something that's really, really important when you're healing from anxious attachment and moving to a more secure place is really just focusing on the fact that you're valuable too. And I think personally, I feel like that's where a lot of anxious attachment is rooted, just feeling like you're not valuable unless you do XYZ things or unless you check XYZ boxes. But at the end of the day, if you have value in yourself, and this isn't saying that you have to love yourself perfectly, this isn't saying that you have to be perfectly confident, because I don't think that exists. I think relationships ask us to show up in ways in which we don't perfectly love ourselves, and that's kind of the beauty of relationships. But in order to heal that anxious attachment is just realizing that you have worth and that you bring something to the table. Because when you realize that you have worth, you want to protect it, right? It's like when you get something new. Let's say you get a brand new phone. We're all super protective of our phones when we first get them, right? Because
Right.
we find it to be valuable. So when you find yourself valuable in a relationship, it's much easier to stand up for your boundaries and to stand up for yourself, because at least speaking from my personal journey, I completely lost all value in myself. And so it was so easy to walk all over me. So, of course, I was
Hmm.
anxious because when I was getting trampled over by everybody, but then also I didn't know how to like stand up and fix it. So, when you're able to get to that point where you're like, hey, actually, like, I don't have to take this, like, I'm valuable, then that's a huge, huge milestone for actually calling in healthy relationships.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I think so. And that makes me think, as you were describing that, there is that cycle where your own lack of self-worth, your fears of not being good enough, cause you to behave in a way that reinforces that belief, right? And it just keeps you stuck. But the hard part is, okay, initially getting out of the cycle. And
Right.
getting out of the cycle, I think it's very helpful to have somebody who's already on the outside of the cycle, but understands it deeply so they can approach you with compassion is important. So not trying to do this on your own. And this kind of leads me to the next point if we're looking at like the process of how you actually change this. Community is so important here because
Mhm.
community, and what I mean by community is specifically you have other individuals in your life who have the same kind of struggle, but they also have the same kind of commitment to break the pattern, to break the struggle, to become secure. And it's challenging to find that, I will say. That's why we kind of facilitate it in our groups and in the Secure Self Club we do that. But the power of it is that, like I say, you have somebody who's on the outside who can help you recognize how to get out, how to break it. They're not in the cycle. They're not even part of it at all. And they understand it well enough to help you navigate that piece of it too. It's just, yeah. And honestly, just community in itself sometimes breaks the cycle because you start realizing, oh, wow, I'm actually not like totally crazy. I'm
Mhm.
not alone. I can do this. And
Mhm.
the coolest part is when we talk about what I call a disconfirming experience. A disconfirming experience is an experience that disconfirms your negative beliefs or old way of thinking to be true. So, growing up, you maybe believe that you have to be perfect in order to be lovable. You can't show who you are, and so you people please. But then you get into a group, you get into a community with other people who are just like you allow yourself to be totally authentic and totally real, and you are then met with love and
Mhm.
compassion. That's the most beautiful, disconfirming experience in the whole wide world. It proves to your inner child that, yeah, you can be who you want to be. You can be yourself, and it's so, so safe.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's so important too, is surrounding yourself with people who let your authenticity shine. Because that can be really scary at first, especially if you're used to being in this place of people pleasing, of molding yourself into what other people need you to be or want you to be or what you think other people need you to be. It can be really hard to show up authentically at first. It can even be scary to order what you want to at a restaurant because you're worried that
Yeah,
people are going to judge you for what you like and what your opinions are. So
right.
when you surround yourself with people that show you that it's safe to be weird, that it's safe to just be yourself, that it's safe to have those like weird, those like little idiosyncrasies about yourself shine, then it becomes a lot more comfortable over time to do that with everybody.
Yes, absolutely. It's true. I
Yeah.
love that.
Okay, so I've been really wanting to ask you this question. What is a behavior that feels like it's secure attachment, at least on the surface, but actually signals an insecure pattern masquerading as something healthy?
Mm, yeah. You'll see this. in anxiously attached individuals will maybe they've previously been well when it comes to having a need in a relationship, an unmet need, um, the anxiously attached will usually default to kind of one or two sides of this spectrum where they'll either mask their needs and not say anything at all, which is the people pleasing we've been talking about, um, or they will, with a lot more fear, anxiety, and yeah, just fear and anxiety, they'll state their needs in a way that to them, they might say things like, "Oh yeah, I always speak my mind. I'm always straight up. I tell people what I want," and kind of with this pride, right?
Mhm.
But really, they're not telling people what they want. They're
Mhm.
oftentimes critical. And the
Mhm.
criticism is not actually focusing on what you want or what you need, but what the other person is doing wrong.
Right.
So, for example, let's say your partner comes home late, like, pretty consistently, and you want to have dinner together, and you have this need to connect. You have this need for closeness in the evening and to spend some time. But
Mhm.
instead of telling them that, hey, I would love for you to come home because I want some time to connect with you. I love spending time with you. That's so valuable and meaningful for me. They come at them with, you never come home on time. You're always showing up late. Like, what am I supposed to do with you?
Mhm.
Do you even care about me? Right? And to them, it might look like, oh, yeah, you're being straight up. You go, right? It's like I'm almost getting that, like, yeah, you go, queen kind of energy from it, right? But it's like,
Yeah.
no, no, no. You better stop, queen, because
Mhm.
guess what? You're not actually communicating accurately what you
Mhm.
need. What you
Right.
need is buried behind all this criticism and judgment of the other person. And
Right.
it's like, oh no, you're right. And if they could only hear what you want them to, what you really want, that's actually pretty loving, right? Let's go back to the partner coming home late example. The the real need is I love you. I care about you. You're my guy. I want you to be home in the evening so we can spend time together because I just can't get enough of you. I want to be close to you. Whoa, that's not going to create defensiveness, shut
Mhm.
down, withdraw, or anything else, but the criticism surely will create all of that.
Right. Well, the second option, where you're being open with how you're feeling because you want to spend more time with them, requires vulnerability. And I think when you're on that, it's kind of like a pendulum, is how I see it. So maybe you're way over here when you're anxiously attached, and then you start to learn how to stand up for yourself more. And to your point, then the pendulum swings this way.
You
So
swing,
you're a
yeah,
little bit overcorrected and you start to be critical, and then you swing back a little bit this way until you find a happy
yeah,
medium in the center. And that happy medium in the center does involve vulnerability because it actually involves showing your heart to people and risking rejection and really risking that
yeah,
abandonment that you're so scared of as an anxiously attached person. But when you found that center, the abandonment
yeah.
doesn't feel quite as scary because now you've gone through all these processes and you have all these tools to help you stay at that place.
Right, right. And I will say, what I've actually found is that an anxiously attached person, before doing any healing, will actually swing from one side of the pendulum to the other, and skip the middle, whether they're doing work or not, because both lack vulnerability. And I love that you said that because it is true. Vulnerability is what brings it into the center.
Mm-hmm.
The people pleasing lacks vulnerability because you're quite literally hiding. The criticism, you're hiding in a different way. You're hiding behind the anger and the frustration. And so typically, a person will find themselves building resentment, people pleasing until the point of criticism. Then there's this like big blowout. And then because of the blowout, they start to feel like they need to protect themselves by people pleasing more. Okay, this is what happens when I tell you what I need. You just do this. You withdraw. You never say anything, or you get defensive. Oh man, that's one version of the story. And so they
Mm-hmm.
go back to, I'll just hide what I need, and they swing back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth until they become, and here's the key though. How do we get to vulnerability? Vulnerability comes when we have a deep, deep sense of self-confidence,
Mm-hmm.
self-worth, the reassurance that knows at the end of the day, even if I go out on that vulnerable plank and they drop me, they're not there for me, right? We've probably seen the visual of like one partner standing on a cliff on a board and they're holding down the weight and the other one has to walk out on the other plank over the open chasm. And the key is, are they going to drop me or not?
Mm-hmm.
The secure person knows if they drop me, I know I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to hurt. It's going to be horrible, but like I'm going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the personal work
Mm-hmm.
that preempts your ability to be vulnerable, ask for what you need, set the boundaries, all the other good stuff. So you can see it all stems from the root of safety and security within yourself.
Beautifully said. And I do want to leave some time for you to talk a little bit more about your own, you mentioned it a little bit before, but your secure self community and the art of healing. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how it works and how people
Yeah,
can join if they want to join?
totally. Yeah, so the Secure Self Club is the resource that I wish I would have had when I was anxiously attached and struggling with security. And it's a place where over a 4 month period of time, we help people become secure. And we're, very, very confident in our ability to do this. We actually even have like a money back guarantee. Which is crazy because somebody could get to the end and then just say, I don't like it, when in reality they've transformed their lives. Um, and we've actually never had anybody ask for the money back because they're so
Mm-hmm.
satisfied with what's been going on. But essentially, we guide people from anxiously attached to secure through individual coaching, group coaching, some workshop kind of work, and things like that. For a person who's like, oh, that sounds interesting, I'd like to try that. I would say do one of two things. You can send us a message like on Instagram, The Art of Healing by Trevor. You could go to our website, theartofhealingbytrevor.com, and you can click Work with Me, Secure Self Club, and you'll watch testimonials. They'll make you cry. They're just so good. The testimonials are amazing. We put piano music on them, and now they make you cry because the music, I swear. But you can go there and reach out. And what we typically do is we actually book an hour-long call with anybody who's looking to be part of the program so that we can make sure that we're actually giving them the best resource, not just our resource. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so ignorant to believe that I have the one solution for everybody. Sometimes we're not the best solution. We'd rather point you in the direction of what's going to work for you rather than, have you join our program. Because we got plenty of people joining the program. We're not hurting for that by any means. And so, yeah, either go on Instagram or the website, book the call, or you can go and use some of our free resources first. People kind of warm up on a podcast. I'm like, get another warm up. You don't have to commit to me. This is just a first date. Let's go on a second date. You go watch one of my workshops, and there's plenty of them. There's free ones all out there. So that would be the best next steps if someone's like, I like what this is. I want to get more from Trevor.
Okay. Amazing. And I will include all those links in the show notes for everybody who's listening.
Perfect.
So, Trevor, to end the episode, what is one piece of advice you would give? I guess this will be a two-part question, actually. One piece of advice you would give to people that are out there in the dating world, and what piece of advice would you give somebody that is in a relationship and wants to make it better?
Yeah, it's the same piece of advice, um, which is we have to draw some context. The majority of issues that come from both dating and committed relationships come down to underlying hidden fears, anxieties, and issues around self-worth, aka security, right?
Mm-hmm.
Insecure is I don't believe that I'm good enough. I'm afraid others are going to leave, all that kind of stuff. Security is I know I'm enough. I can fill up my own emotional cup. I'm safe.
Mm-hmm.
We've kind of illustrated why that's the case, both in the negative self-fulfilling prophecy and the positive one. So I won't go over that again, but it plays out in both single and committed relationships. So my one piece of advice would be work to become the most secure person you possibly can be.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let that stop you from like, moving forward and doing some dating. And I'm sure there's a time when you're like, maybe I will pause. Like I'm not going to date for a second because I kind of got quite a bit of work to do and I want to reset. That's
Mm-hmm.
totally fine. But you don't have to be perfectly healed
Mm-hmm.
to be in a relationship. But I will say being perfectly committed to always moving forward and becoming more secure, that's what I would encourage you to do is become really committed to that. And if we can help you do it, that's great. But either way, I would say that's the message I want the world to know.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Trevor. And thank you all for listening in, and we will see you next week. Bye. Thank Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you liked what you heard, then go ahead and subscribe so you get updates with us every week. You can also follow us on Instagram at KRC Coaching. If you're interested in working one-on-one, then go ahead and visit our website, krccoaching.com, to book your first 30-minute session for free. All right, thanks so much, you guys. Love you. Bye.